A young waitress stumbles upon a billionaire's lost wallet during her night shift, only to find something shocking inside: a photo of her late mother. What unfolds next is a tale filled with mystery, emotional twists, and a truth that will leave you speechless. Why does a wealthy stranger carry her mom's picture? Is there a hidden past no one ever told her about? This story will take you on a journey of curiosity, heartbreak, and a revelation that changes everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more emotional story tales. In the sleepy town of Willowbrook, nestled between misty hills and endless pine forests, life moved at a gentle, familiar pace. The kind of town where strangers stood out, secrets didn't stay buried for long, and everyone seemed to know each other's favorite pie flavor. It was the kind of place where nothing truly unexpected ever happened, until that rainy Tuesday. Inside the Maple and Moonlight Diner, the air was warm and thick with the scent of sizzling bacon and fresh coffee. The neon sign outside flickered in the window, glowing faintly through the drizzle. Country tunes played softly from an old jukebox, and the clatter of silverware echoed beneath the lazy afternoon hum. The booths were half filled with regulars: old Mr. Benton reading his paper, a young couple sharing milkshakes, a few tired truckers sipping coffee and watching the rain. Behind the counter, Emily Quinn, 26 and barely tall enough to reach the top shelf, balanced a full tray of pancakes and steaming mugs like a seasoned performer. With chestnut hair pulled into a messy bun and a pencil tucked behind one ear, she looked every bit the small-town waitress. But there was something thoughtful behind her eyes, something that suggested her mind often wandered far beyond the diner walls. She knew her customers well. She could predict who would ask for extra syrup, who liked their toast just on the edge of burnt, and who came not for the food, but for a sliver of conversation. The diner was her second home, maybe her only real home since her mother passed away. The rhythm of the place gave her comfort, until he walked in. The door creaked open, letting in a gust of rain and something else, an air of difference. A man stepped inside, tall, distinguished, dressed in a charcoal coat that looked expensive even when soaked. His salt and pepper hair was neatly combed back, his jaw sharp, his eyes scanning the diner with cool precision. He didn't belong in Willowbrook, that much was obvious. He looked like someone from the world beyond the pines, where boardrooms replaced bar stools and people didn't smile at strangers. He didn't ask for a menu, just sat down at the counter and said, "Black coffee, please," without meeting her eyes. Emily nodded and poured the coffee. As she placed the cup before him, her eyes caught the flicker of something: regret in his distant gaze. He didn't touch the drink. Instead, he stared out the fogged window, as if waiting for something, or someone, that never arrived. A few minutes later, he pulled out $100 bill and slid it toward her. "Keep the change," he said quietly, standing to leave. But in the moment he shifted, his wallet slipped from his coat pocket, landing with a soft thud on the counter. It fell open slightly, just enough for a folded photograph to peek out, trembling as if it too wanted to be seen. Emily reached for it instinctively. She paused when she saw the image. Her hand froze. The world around her seemed to mute. The conversations, the rain, the jukebox, all fading into a distant hum. In her fingers was a photograph, faded with time, the corners bent and soft, and in it was a face she knew better than her own reflection. Her mother, younger, radiant, laughing, in the arms of the very man who stood in front of her now. Emily's breath caught. Her heart hammered in her chest. Her eyes flicked from the photograph to the man, who hadn't yet noticed. The resemblance was undeniable. The arms wrapped around her mother belonged to him. The same sharp jawline, the same quiet intensity. She forced herself to move, to slide the wallet and photo back toward him with trembling fingers. "You dropped this," she murmured, her voice barely audible. He took it without looking, offering a curt nod before turning and walking out into the rain, disappearing as quickly as he'd arrived. Emily stood frozen for several moments, clutching the edge of the counter to steady herself. Her legs felt weak, her mind spiraling. She could feel the eyes of a few curious customers, but she didn't care. She walked straight into the kitchen, leaned against the stainless steel fridge, and tried to breathe. Her mother, Angela Quinn, had passed away when Emily was only 10. And in all those years, she'd never spoken of this man, never shown a photo, never mentioned a relationship, Not once. So who was he? Why did he have a picture of her mother, smiling, joyful, in love? And more terrifying still, why did he look so much like Emily? That night, sleep was impossible. Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling of her modest apartment above the florist's shop where she rented a small space. The sound of rain tapping the windows became a steady rhythm that only amplified her thoughts. Her mind kept circling back to that photo. Her mother, Angela, young and beautiful, smiling in a way Emily had never seen in any of the family albums. In the picture, Angela looked alive in a different way, radiant with love. And in the arms of the man beside her, there was intimacy, familiarity. But it was the man himself who disturbed Emily most. His presence at the diner, his expensive suit, the effortless authority he carried, it all contradicted the warm, faded photo tucked inside his wallet. How could someone who looked so powerful, so polished, be part of a past her mother had hidden so carefully? Emily sat up, pulled her laptop from the nightstand, and opened it with determination. A cold curiosity had started to take root inside her, no longer just a passing question, but a need for truth. She couldn't explain it, not even to herself. She just knew she had to know. She typed the words she barely dared to speak aloud: billionaire CEO, silver hair, American businessman. It was a vague start, but it didn't take long. After refining the search, cross-referencing images with the face she'd seen at the diner, she found him. Victor Ellingsworth. The name felt like a thunderclap. Emily stared at the screen, blinking, absorbing what she was reading. Victor Ellingsworth wasn't just rich, he was legendary. The founder and CEO of Ellingsworth Global Holdings, a multinational conglomerate involved in everything from real estate to technology to renewable energy. Worth several $billions, with properties in New York, Paris, Tokyo, and Dubai. He appeared regularly on magazine covers and business networks. He gave lectures at Ivy League universities. He'd shaken hands with presidents and royalty. She clicked through the pages of results, scanning biographies, at press interviews, and glossy spreads in business magazines. Every article painted him as brilliant, enigmatic, and ruthlessly driven. They called him a visionary and a man who built an empire from dust. He'd grown up modestly, they said, and climbed the ladder with relentless ambition. But something caught her eye in every profile. His personal life was almost a complete blank. No mention of a wife, no mention of children, just brief references to a private past and his well-known refusal to discuss anything beyond business. And nowhere, in all those polished paragraphs, did the name Angela Quinn appear. Emily's stomach twisted. Her mother had never been a part of this world. She'd never owned expensive clothes or flown across the world or mingled with CEOs. She'd worked nights at a laundromat and early mornings at the bakery. She sang to Emily while folding laundry, told bedtime stories about fairies and forests, and always managed to make birthdays special, even if the presents were hand-me-downs and the cake came from a box mix. How could a man like Victor have once held her mother in his arms and then disappeared so completely? Had he abandoned her? Had he erased her from his life as if she never existed? Emily closed the laptop, tears stinging her eyes. She wasn't just sad, she was furious. Her mother had deserved more than this, more than to be forgotten, more than to be reduced to a hidden photo buried in a wallet, the same wallet carried by a man now celebrated for his power and success. A sharp memory returned, her mother crying silently in the kitchen one night when she thought Emily was asleep. She remembered the way Angela had clutched something in her hand, perhaps that same photo, and whispered a name that Emily hadn't recognized, a name she didn't remember until now. Maybe it was Victor. She hadn't asked questions back then, but now she wished she had. Emily stood, her heart pounding. She no longer felt like the quiet waitress from a quiet town. Something had awakened inside her, a fire, a purpose. She would find out what had happened between Victor Ellingsworth and Angela Quinn. She would find out why her mother had kept him a secret, and why he had chosen a life of power over a life with her. She had a name, she had a face, and she had questions that demanded answers. 2 days. That's how long Emily spent gathering the courage to do what her heart insisted she must. For 48 hours, she couldn't eat, couldn't think of anything else. The photo had burned itself into her memory. The unanswered questions screamed louder with every passing hour. Who was this man really? Why had he disappeared from her mother's life? And most haunting of all, was he truly her father? On the third morning, she stood outside the towering glass and steel structure that housed Ellingsworth Global Headquarters, the crown jewel of Victor Ellingsworth's empire. The building rose like a blade against the sky, sleek and cold, reflecting the clouds above and the busy world below. People in sharp suits passed through the rotating doors like clockwork, phones in hand, eyes fixed forward. Emily felt like she didn't belong, but she was done being afraid. Dressed in a borrowed trench coat that was slightly too big, her hair pinned back into a bun, she walked through the glass doors with her chin held high. The marble lobby gleamed under crystal lighting. A receptionist greeted her politely, barely glancing up. Emily gave a confident name, one she'd seen on a company directory, and acted like she had every right to be there. Step by step, she climbed the ladder of security. Elevators, checkpoints, more polished employees. Her heart thundered, but she reminded herself, this wasn't about her. It was about her mother, about the truth, and about the man who had once held her mother in his arms, only to vanish. Finally, she was standing outside his office. A towering set of glass doors stood before her, guarded only by a sleek personal assistant who looked up with mild curiosity. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Emily said, voice steady. "But he'll want to see me." Something in her tone must have landed. After a brief phone call and a hesitant pause, the assistant opened the doors. The office was everything she expected: modern, minimalist, elegant. A wall of windows overlooked the city skyline. Abstract art hung on the walls. A desk sat at the far end, wide and uncluttered. Behind it, Victor Ellingsworth was reviewing documents with clinical precision. He looked up. For a moment, he simply stared at her. Then, with a polite but slightly puzzled tone, he asked, "Can I help you?" Emily stepped forward. Her hand trembled as she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out the photograph. "You left your wallet," she said, "and this photo fell out." She laid it gently on his desk. Victor froze. The change in him was immediate. His face, calm and composed just seconds earlier, went pale. The quiet confidence he wore like a tailored suit cracked. His eyes, sharp and calculating, softened as they fell on the image. He slowly picked it up like it was something sacred. His fingers brushed the edge of the photograph. For a long moment, he said nothing. "Where did you get this?" he asked finally, his voice low, almost afraid. "It was in your wallet," Emily replied, then added, "The woman in that picture, she's my mother." Victor looked up sharply. The emotion in his eyes betrayed him. Shock, recognition, pain. Silence fell between them, heavy and unbearable. Victor slowly sank into his chair, his shoulders sagging beneath the weight of the past. "Her name was Angela," he said quietly. She was the only woman I ever loved." Emily's jaw clenched. "Then why did you leave her?" He didn't look away. "Because I was a fool. I chose ambition. I thought if I built something great, I could come back and make it right. But time passed, and I got lost in it all. The deals, the status, the endless race. When I finally returned to find her, she was gone, moved away. No forwarding address, no number." He exhaled, the breath shaky. "I didn't know she had a child." Emily felt something inside her fracture and shift all at once. "She never mentioned you," she said. "Not once. You were a ghost." Victor nodded slowly, as if he deserved that truth. "I deserve to be forgotten," he said. "But you're here, and that means—" His voice caught. He looked at her again, this time not as a stranger, but with something deeper: recognition, awe. "You're mine," he whispered. The words landed like a stone in a still pond. Emily stood frozen, her throat tight. She didn't know what to say, what to feel. Rage, grief, confusion, and somewhere, buried beneath it all, a flicker of something else, possibility. Here he was, the man from the photo, her mother's lost love, her father, and nothing would ever be the same. Emily stumbled out of the towering building, her legs moving on instinct while her mind spiraled in chaos. The automatic doors hissed shut behind her, sealing away the truth she had just uncovered. The street buzzed with the sounds of the evening rush, honking cars, murmuring crowds, flashing lights, but none of it registered. Her world had shifted too suddenly, too completely. Her hands clutched the photograph like a lifeline. The same picture, now creased from her grip, fluttered slightly in the breeze as she wandered aimlessly down the sidewalk. She turned down a quieter street until she found an empty bench beneath a flickering street lamp. There, Beneath the fading dusk sky, she finally sat and let the weight of it all crash over her. Victor Ellingsworth was her father. It didn't feel real. It couldn't be. But the man's voice, the pain in his eyes, the way he had said, "You're mine," those were not the words of a stranger. They were the words of a man burdened by regret. And behind the sorrow in his voice, Emily could sense something else: truth. She stared down at the photo again. Her mother, Angela, was smiling in it, genuinely happy. Emily had always known her mother as strong, kind, but tired. There were hints of sadness behind her eyes that no child could understand, and Angela never offered explanations. She never spoke about the man who might have once been in her life. There was no box of letters, no stories, no anger, just silence. Had her mother hidden the truth to protect her? Or was it too painful for Angela to relive? Had she been trying to shield Emily from a man she believed would never return? Emily's heart broke all over again. She remembered how her mother used to brush her hair each morning, whispering, "You're my greatest treasure." At the time, she thought it was something all mothers said. But now those words felt different, heavier, more sacred. Her mother hadn't been protecting her from a villain. She had been honoring a promise to raise her with love, even in the absence of it. But now, that absence had a name, and a face, and a past. Emily wiped a tear from her cheek, not knowing what to feel. Part of her wanted to hate Victor for leaving, for choosing success over family. Another part, the one that still clutched the photo, wanted to understand him. And maybe one day, to forgive. Days passed, then weeks. Emily returned to her normal routine at the Maple and Moonlight Diner, but everything felt different. Every time she looked into a customer's face, she wondered about their story, what secrets they carried, what heartbreaks they masked with smiles. Victor didn't try to contact her immediately. He didn't send flowers or expensive gifts. Instead, one quiet morning, she received a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No assistant, no signature stamp, just his words, raw and honest. In the letter, he didn't make excuses. He didn't try to rewrite the past. What he did offer were pieces of it, memories of her mother that Emily had never known. He described the way Angela danced barefoot in the rain, how she used to hum old jazz tunes while baking apple pies, how they once got lost on purpose in a small coastal town just to escape the noise of the world. "I failed her," he wrote, "and I failed you. But if there's any part of you that wants to know me, I will be here. No pressure, no expectations, just hope." The letter sat unopened on her nightstand for 3 days after she read it. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, she called the number he'd written at the bottom. They agreed to meet. Nothing formal, no cameras, just a quiet cafe tucked away from the eyes of the world. When Emily arrived, Victor was already seated, his coffee untouched, just like the day he'd walked into the diner. He looked up and smiled nervously, unsure of what to say. Emily sat down across from him. Neither of them spoke for a moment. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he finally said. "I wasn't sure I would either," she replied honestly. There were awkward pauses, hesitant questions, some laughter, a few tears. But something unspoken passed between them, a willingness to try. "I don't expect forgiveness," Victor said gently, "but I'd like to know you, if you'll let me." Emily didn't answer right away. She looked out the window at the sunlit street, the people passing by with their own stories. Maybe the past couldn't be undone. Maybe the wounds wouldn't vanish overnight. But in that small cafe, with the warmth of the sun on her face and the gentle hope in Victor's eyes, Emily realized something important. The door hadn't closed. It had just been waiting to be opened. Sometimes the truth doesn't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. Sometimes it shows up quietly, hidden in an old photograph, lost in a forgotten wallet, or revealed in a stranger's eyes. For Emily Quinn, one accidental discovery changed everything. What began as a mystery led her through grief, anger, and the shadows of the past, only to uncover something deeper: identity, connection, and the possibility of healing. Because the past may shape us, but it doesn't have to define us. And even the most broken stories can find a new beginning, if the heart is willing. If this story moved you, inspired you, or simply made you pause for a moment, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. There are so many more stories waiting to be told. And who knows? The next one might just be your own.